let's start a little bit before we do get into the here and now. I do want to just go down a little bit of memory lane of your career with you, about how, you come out of Delaware. You're a Philly kid, by the way, the same high school of Stefanski and Judge, who we just saw go at it. I know Joe Judge did leave because Stefanski beat him out for a gig to succeed your footsteps in that great prep school, St. Joe's Prep. But you wound up in Minnesota, right? I mean, and after being drafted by the Patriots, and then the only phrase for it, I guess, is kicked around a while, trying to find your footing there too, Rich, correct?
I did, and absolutely. So I came out in '87, and I was actually drafted by the Patriots, and it was one of the few teams I never worked out for. And they told me when they drafted me, it was Dick Steinberg was the general manager, and Raymond Berry was the head coach. And they had just come off that '85 Super Bowl run.
Right.
And so they had Tony Eason and Steve Rogan and a guy named Mike Ramsey from UCLA. So they felt they were in pretty good shape. And they drafted me, and I thought to myself, I don't understand this. And so they told me they want to find the best position for me. Well, when you tell a quarterback, who's 21 years old coming out of college, they want to find the best position for you. I thought to myself, there's zero chance I could go to a training camp and make a team as a defensive back or as a running back. So I was accepted to law school. My dad was an attorney. I was going to go to law school. And then 6 days later, I got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. And I wasn't really ready to play coming out of Delaware. It took me a couple of years to watch and learn behind Tommy Kramer and Wade Wilson, a couple of characters. But I finally got my chance, and, I kind of bounced around a little bit. And then I got traded to the Redskins. And then finally I landed in Kansas City, where after 7 years, I got with some really good coaches, Marty Schottenheimer, and two assistant coaches, Paul Hackett, who had a great long career as an NFL coordinator, was the head coach at USC and a couple other places. But Mike McCarthy was my quarterback coach, Rich. And I'll tell you, that's really where my game began to take off. He was a phenomenal teacher and very patient with me, even though I was a 7-year veteran.
And then, I want to put a pin in that for a moment. Then you wound up in Oakland. And what happened there? What was the magic sauce there for you? Was it Gruden plus? What was it for you, Rich, that year?
There's a great clip on NFL Films with Dick Vermeil on the sidelines, and he grabs a hold of Ron Jaworski, who was struggling at the time, and he said, I'm not going to yank you. You're my guy. And I talked to Jaws about that later and how much that meant to him, just to know that somebody believed in him. I never really had that until I got to Oakland. John Gruden basically stuck his neck out. They got rid of Jeff George. They owed him a lot of money. And he was convinced that I was the guy that could come in. And I never really, at that point in my career, I started some games and I had some success in Kansas City, but I wasn't the primary starter. So he really believed in me enough to go to Al Davis and try and convince Al Davis to hire this, backup quarterback, this kind of journeyman from the Chiefs. And I went in there and I thought to myself at that point, I'd made some good money. I had a good contract. And I thought to myself, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I know is right. I'm just going to be honest and truthful. And John and I were just, birds of a feather. We just hit it off. I mean, the system was the same. We were, cut from the same cloth. I mean, we just believed in it the same way, and we just were passionate about it, and we were just going to speak our mind. And I didn't make a lot of friends in Oakland my first couple of years because I was hell bent on getting things right. And there was a real lack of leadership. There was a lack of clarity. There's a lack of, it was a dysfunctional environment. Guys didn't care. Guys didn't work at it. And so eventually we got rid of those guys. We started bringing in some really good players, Rod Woodson and John Perella and Jerry Rice and Trace Armstrong. And, I could go on and on. Just really guys that cared about football. They were real professionals. And it really began to make a difference, not only in the field, but in the locker room.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.